And let's get more from Makram Rabah. He's an assistant professor of history at the American University of Beirut. Welcome, Mr. Rabah. How great would you say is the concern in Lebanon that a war with Israel might be on the horizon?
Well, actually, the people of Lebanon are in the midst of war, but what they are actually waiting for at the moment is a so-called punitive strike, which Netanyahu and Israel has vowed to do against Hezbollah for targeting the soccer pitch in the Julan and the killing of the 13 children. So basically, everyone is anxious because no one knows, including Hezbollah, what will be the extent of the strike. And at the same time, no one knows how will Hezbollah retaliate. But as is, everyone has telegrammed in a way that they don't want a full-scale escalation or a total war, not because they want to avoid war, but at least in the mindset of Netanyahu, he cannot fight two fronts at the same time. And Hezbollah and Iran simply want a way out, and they are trying to negotiate this with the Biden administration, but thus far they have failed miserably to convince the international community to force a kind of a ceasefire.
Is a response from Hezbollah to any potential Israeli strike dependent on the nature of that Israeli strike?
Well, Hezbollah simply cares about the optics, and this is why it all depends on what type of strike the Israelis will take. We have been hearing from the Israeli side something which is similar to the Hudaydah scenario, and they have used this term in particular. So they want something theatrical, something that would be sending a message to the international community and to Hezbollah and Iran in particular. However, ironically, sir, there's nothing to destroy in Lebanon anymore. Hezbollah has done this on behalf of the Israelis. At the same time, we don't know if Hezbollah has the ability or its calculated response to any Israeli strike would not spill over and cause a kind of a regional war.
Hezbollah depends on Iranian support, but how much does Iran control Hezbollah's decisions in this current situation?
Well, Hezbollah, again, is an Iranian proxy. And while Hezbollah might have some sort of individual agency on how to fight, the decision to fight comes from Iran and Tehran. And here we don't want to say that they are ordered, but they are part and parcel and organically connected to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. And the Secretary General of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, carries a kind of weight, and he virtually and figuratively sits on Tehran's war council. So he is allowed to lead the confrontation here. However, the overwhelming talking points or the general direction of the conflict has been set by Tehran.
And newly elected Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian reportedly told French President Emmanuel Macron in a telephone call, I think it was, that any Israeli attack on Lebanon will have, quote, serious consequences for Israel. Does that mean we could potentially see another Iranian attack on Israel?
Well, I think the Israelis would like a kind of this theatrical light show which the Iranians did after their embassy was targeted. Because as you are well aware, sir, this has caused the international community to come to the aid of Israel. So if the Iranians continue to do this so-called shadow boxing and try to threaten Israel's existence and send these rockets across many of the Arab countries, this would be actually beneficial for Netanyahu and his talking points, as well as to the hawks in his cabinet. So I think the Iranian president, who claims to be a reformer, doesn't really call the shots in Iran. The people who do are the guards and Khamenei. And at the moment, no one is listening to any sort of logical calls for peace. Everyone wants war, or they want to actually be able to capitalize on the blood of the innocent across the border.
The conflict between Israel and Hezbollah is, of course, closely linked to the war in Gaza. Hezbollah has said it will stop its attacks on Israel as soon as there is a ceasefire in Gaza. Do you believe that?
Well, Hezbollah might want to do this because simply even when they opened the so-called front in the south of Lebanon to support the Palestinians, they had failed miserably. Nothing has changed. And the people of Gaza are dying at the same rate as before. However, this idea of unifying the fronts between Lebanon and Israel, this is something that Netanyahu and the Israeli military has chosen not to accept, meaning that after the end of the war in Gaza, the military establishment will have to rethink what it will do in Lebanon. And thus, this idea that the end of the war in Gaza will simply translate in the end of the war in Lebanon is totally unfounded.
We'll leave it there for the moment, but thanks so much for joining us today. Makram Rabah from the American University of Beirut. Thanks so much.